My first impressions of the series were just, I mean, when you look at it, you're bowled over by the visuals of it. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's such a pleasure to watch this show. I mean, the character drawings, the backgrounds, everything. There's such an attention to detail in it, and that just shines through the second you start an episode. It's just, astonishingly impressive to look at.
We're all done with you now. You've given us what we wanted.
The most satisfying part of working on this series is just bringing these characters to life in English. They've done an amazing job in the original Japanese, and I really, really wanted to do the characters justice and, if possible, to add to it. And I think with this series, it had a lot of potential for us to add to it by adapting it to English because, well, if you look at the characters like Dutch, who's African-American, Revi is Chinese-American, and Benny is Jewish-American. And I was just really excited to show them in their native tongue how they would be, like if you shot it on film or something, say, or if you bumped into these characters in real life. Everyone involved, our casting director, our director, myself, we all kind of envisioned how these people would sound in real life, and we managed to pull together an amazing cast to voice these people, and that's been really rewarding.
When I first started writing the show, there were a couple aspects that were challenging for me, but probably the biggest challenge was really trying to bring some of these great characters to life. Having watched the OJ and really felt that feeling that it was a really strong show, the characters were really vibrant, I wanted to do justice to that, obviously. The other aspect that was challenging in the writing was just doing some of this background research that was needed. I know that Ray Hiroi is a fan of small arms. He knows a great deal about Western culture. The scripts are loaded with references. A lot of the events and organizations and places in the scripts exist in real life, so it requires a lot of background research as well. For example, there's a mercenary contracting organization called Extra Order, and it's referred to as the EO organization. EO also stands for, Executive Outcomes, which was an actual mercenary contracting agency that operated out of South Africa and worked in Sierra Leone and Angola. So, you don't have to, as soon as you start looking in these scripts, you find a whole wealth of information beneath the surface there. And it's kind of further proof that, that oftentimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
It ain't something that happens every day, but once in a while you find them around. Wannabe vets who like to pretend they're cowboys.
Steven's done such a good job with this. He's managed to give, I think, the characters, their own mode of speech almost. Some writers, you feel like all the characters are written in the writer's voice, but for this script, each character has their own voice, and it really comes through. It's been just great to work on.
Another aspect of background research I had to do was about the Japanese salarymen. And there's a real great, in the first volume, the beginnings of sort of Rock's metamorphosis from, workaday office guy to kind of freestanding, pirate. So there is a real story arc starting there in the first volume where he's actually starting to change and starting to assert himself. He's in a different company and he's being forced to kind of re-examine his old life through a new lens.
I was lucky enough to spend a couple of weeks in Japan when I was like 12 years old or something. I spent a bit of time between Yokohama and Tokyo, so I have a picture in my head of all these very well-dressed gentlemen flooding the streets on their way to work, right? So that's an image that's kind of stuck with me. Yeah, and that's it. I guess it's one of the things that you pick up on is some of the customs and the formalities of the job that you do, and you start to see that kind of leak into how he deals with the crew that he's joined, and obviously very different takes on how you deal with certain situations. And I think in a lot of these situations, you're going to see his formalities actually help the crew.
I'm pretty sure we have everything we need.
What the hell do you have in mind anyway?
Well, you kind of get a hint of it, even in the opening dialogue of the series, that he doesn't seem all that comfortable in that business world that he's in anyway. I mean, he kind of gets kicked around by his bosses, and it seems like he's kind of fumbling through it to begin with. It doesn't help that your company completely turns on you and tries to make you a martyr, and it tells you essentially to your face how expendable you are. And of course, there's the intrigue of the pirate lifestyle and whatnot. And of course, having Revy on the other side of the fence is a pretty good draw as well. So I think I don't think it was too much of a difficult decision for him to try for a change.
Hey, bartender!
Bring us all the Bacardi you got right now!
Something that might separate him from a lot of the other male characters in the show is with his relation to Revy. It seems like he's more genuinely interested in her background. I think a lot of people tend to kind of take her at that face value, this tough chick that, will kick your ass all over the place if you look at her the wrong way.
There's so much going on with Revy. There's so many subtleties, so much that's interesting about her to work with, because she's, got those psycho moments that can be just bone-chilling. I mean, there was a couple reads today that literally had shivers going up and down my spine, like just these really creepy moments that are, added to by the animation. They just, sometimes the way a shadow falls across her face and she delivers this, really subtle and creepy line, it's just, it's chilling. It's great.
She's smiling.
The first impression I had of the character through looking at the sides in the audition was that this is a really tough female character, which is really cool to see, from a female actor's perspective. As we've gone on and done, quite a few episodes now of recording, she's not just a tough girl with, 2 guns. She is showing a different side as the different characters in this series start to confront her. And it's almost forcing her to think about herself and her life. And it's not becoming any more difficult to play her. I try to approach any role that I do and give them some ideas and some layers to them and some kind of background that creates I hope that creates a real person. So it's actually becoming less of a challenge because this stuff is actually there in front of me, that this is what's happened to her, this is what's gone on in her life. And it just gives you that much more richness to draw from. As Rock's character starts to develop confidence, he pushes her, he pushes at her, and he refuses to take the kinds of things that she says at face value, and he won't listen to her. And I think that he is really starting to make her think on an emotional level about her life and what she's been through in her life. And I think that's making her hate him. Dutch makes mention at one point that she didn't like Benny at first either. Dutch can kind of tell her what to do, to a degree, and she listens to him.
I get your point now, so let me go.
Okay, Revy. Let's play it cool.
Dutch, who played by Dean Redman, who I had never actually worked with before the series, and just blew me away. He's such a natural actor, and his voice, I could listen to it all day long. He's got this amazing voice. And, just such a pleasure to work with, too. Such a great guy. And I love his character, too, because he's the perfect sort of leader character, because he's got so much strength, and it just seems to come so easily for him. And with Dean's performance, he just has this strength that emanates from him. It's just, it's great to see.
Well, I used to fly commercially as a pilot and loved it, but didn't really want to do it so much anymore after I wanted to get into film. I started as a stuntman and did some stunts in some movies, and then started acting. I've been acting for a few years, but what I've really been interested in lately is voiceover work, and I lucked out, and I'm working on Black Lagoon as Dutch. I love him. I think very honorable, very true to his team, good leader. He's also, he needs everybody as much as they need him, from what I gather. Like especially Revy, she's like hot pop and oil, but they work well off of each other. He can't do anything without her. She's got his back.
So you won her over with a gun and saved Rock's ass. You got a lot of tricks up your sleeve.
I guess so. As an employer, I worry about human relations, all part of the job.
They're all tough in their own way. I mean, Dutch is probably the toughest in that his toughness comes from a place of honest strength, and he's a war veteran. He's been through a lot, and he's not putting on his toughness as a show. It's just who he is. You compare him to Revy, who's a lot more violent and a lot more psychopathic, but her toughness doesn't come from a place of strength. It comes from a place of emotional instability and a messed up past and a horrible childhood. So her violence is a defense mechanism to the kind of life she's had to lead. So I don't see her as being a particularly strong character from that aspect. She's very volatile and she's totally susceptible to influences like Rock. When Rock starts getting her thinking about her past and her life, she starts losing it and becomes even darker and darker. So it's not her controlling it, it controls her. And then Rock, Rock is tough in that he's stood up for, he stood up to his company, broke those ties, and he lived in a world where he was a salaryman, and he was expected to live this certain life. And it was pretty much mapped out for him, but from the time when he got his job, he knew he was gonna, try and stay with this company as long as he could and make a career out of it. And so he's had to start fresh and try and, use the skills that he's had in this world that he has no experience with. So, he's a strong character in that he's pulling it off, and he's becoming quite an asset. And as the series progresses, he becomes more and more useful to them, I think.
Hey, there's this crew I've heard of that might be looking for a good sailor. You think you could be interested in something like that? They're a delivery company.
Who sometimes break the rules to put food on the table. Isn't that right?
I know there's a lot of anticipation out there for the series. Just living up to that anticipation. It's a lot of pressure, but again, I love the challenge. We all do here at Ocean, and we're very aware of how people are anticipating the series so much. I know much of the fan base is from being fans of these guest characters, these villains that are introduced with future story arcs. And so I'm doing my best to look into these characters, to read people's comments on what it is about these characters that they love so much. I'm not going to mention any yet because I don't want to give away too much, but there are certain characters in the upcoming episodes and also season 2 that I know people love in this series. So that puts a lot of anticipation or expectation in doing these characters a lot of justice. And so we're going to put really careful consideration into who we cast.
Well, I'm very happy with what has transpired so far. I'm just looking forward to more episodes and learning more, getting more into the backstory of the team, because those 4 people there, they got a lot going on, and people don't just drive U-boats and find chase people and kill people for nothing. There's a reason why. Like, I wonder, why is Revy so wild? And I'm sure he was born that way. And what is the connection between Dutch and Revy? Why is he the only one that's able to calm her down, although she could just blow his head off in a second?
It's a real pleasure to get to work on a show like this. Something that I'm really liking about this show is it seems thematically it's fairly unapologetic in its content, which I think everybody seems to have kind of picked up on, from the production staff to the writing. It just seems so natural that I'm really excited to see how all this is going to play out. And like I said before, amazing cast, amazing crew. It's a real treat to come in and go to work.
The people are really talented, and when people around you are really talented, from producer to director to fellow actors, there's that much more of an encouragement to do a really good job. And it makes you proud to be associated with people like that. That you have been chosen to work with these people.
I love working here. I make cartoons for a living. I've had some bad jobs in my life, and certainly this is a great one. And it's a creative atmosphere, and everybody here does such a good job supporting that creativity and making everybody's job easier. There's a lot of people here who really care about the quality of what we come out with. So I think that really shows. So it's nice to work with people who aren't just showing up for work. They're showing up to make something and to make something good.
To make a really vague Black Lagoon reference. It's a tight ship that we have here with a very well-established crew.